Sarah Mitchell never thought her father's old house would become her last hope. It wasn't much. Chipped paint, a sagging porch, and a creaky door that had survived 3 generations. But it was home. After her husband died, and the bills stacked higher than the walls, it was all she had left for herself and her 2 kids, Emma and Max. But on a gray Tuesday morning, everything shattered. She pulled into the driveway, her kids half asleep in the back seat, when she saw them, strangers, standing in her doorway. A man in a dirty hoodie and a woman with a clipboard. The curtains were open, and Sarah could see furniture that wasn't hers. Her heart pounded. She jumped out of the van. "Excuse me, what are you doing in my house?" The man turned casually. "We live here," he said. "We signed a lease." Sarah froze. "No, you didn't. This is my house. I own it." The woman smirked. "Talk to the property manager. Lady, we've got paperwork." She waved a wrinkled set of documents in Sarah's face. Sarah snatched one. The name printed on it wasn't hers. It was Robert Davidson, property manager. A fake signature, a fake notary stamp. She knew instantly it was a scam. "This is fraud," she shouted. The man shrugged. "Then call the cops." "But we're not leaving." So she did. When the officers arrived, she explained everything. The fake lease, the strangers in her home, her children crying in the car. But after a brief look at the papers, one officer sighed and said the words that would burn into her memory forever. "Ma'am, this looks like a civil matter. You'll have to take it to court." The woman inside, the squatter, smiled from the doorway, arms crossed like she'd already won. Sarah's breath caught. "You can't be serious. They're living in my house." "I'm sorry, ma'am," the officer said gently. "We can't remove them without a court order." And just like that, the police drove away, leaving Sarah standing on her own front lawn. A homeowner turned homeless in minutes. That night, Sarah and her kids slept in her old minivan parked at a grocery store lot. Emma's small voice broke the silence. "Mom, why won't they let us go home?" Sarah swallowed hard. "Because sometimes the law is slow, but I'll fix it. I promise." The next morning, she went to City Hall, to the county clerk, to legal aid, anywhere that might help. But everyone told her the same thing. File for eviction. It would take weeks, maybe months. The squatters knew that. They'd done this before. For days. Sarah parked behind an abandoned gas station, charged her phone at a convenience store, while her kids did homework in the back seat. When it rained, she used towels to stop the leaks. Every night, she watched the house from across the street, the lights on, laughter echoing from inside. Her house, her father's house. One night, she saw them loading her things, her couch, her TV, even Emma's bed, into a pickup truck. She called the police again, shaking. "They're stealing my stuff." The dispatcher's voice was calm, distant. "Do you have proof of ownership of the items?" Sarah's throat tightened. "Proof? They're mine. I live there." But the same officer showed up, took one look, and shrugged. "Still a civil issue, ma'am." The squatter, the same woman who smiled before, leaned on the doorframe and waved. "Bye, homeowner." Sarah felt something in her break. That night, she parked by the river, her kids asleep beside her, and recorded a video with trembling hands. "My name is Sarah Mitchell," she said, her voice raw. "I'm a single mom. My home was stolen by squatters. The police said it's a civil matter. My kids and I are sleeping in our car. Please, if anyone knows what to do, help us." She posted it online. She didn't expect anyone to watch, but someone did. Miles away, in a cluttered biker garage, Frank Grizzly Lawson scrolled through his phone after a long ride. The video auto-played. A tired woman in a van, her eyes hollow, a girl curled up behind her. He almost kept scrolling until she said the address. Frank froze. That address, he knew it. John Mitchell's old house. John had been his friend, his savior, years ago, back when Frank was young and reckless, trapped in a snowstorm with his dying brother. John had found them, brought them to his home, and sat with Frank's brother until the ambulance came. The man never asked for thanks, only said, "When you can help someone else, do it." And now, his daughter was begging for help. Frank stood slowly, his leather jacket creaking. Around him, the Iron Hawks Motorcycle Club members looked up from their beers. "Something wrong, boss?" He turned the phone around. "Yeah, John Mitchell's girl. Someone stole her damn house." A murmur spread. These were men and women with rough edges, mechanics, vets, single parents, but they had rules. Loyalty, debt, honor. Frank's jaw clenched. Gear up, we're paying an old debt. By dawn, the Iron Hawks rolled out. 40 bikers at first, then more as word spread. Engines thundered down the freeway, chrome gleaming in the morning sun. They rode not for revenge, but for something simpler, justice. Sarah woke to the sound of engines. She stepped outside the van, shielding her eyes as dozens of motorcycles lined the street. Her heart pounded as one massive man stepped off the lead bike. His beard was streaked with gray, his leather cut patched with Iron Hawks MC. "Sarah Mitchell?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "I'm Frank Lawson," he said. "Your dad once pulled me and my brother out of a snowstorm. Saved our lives. I owe him. Looks like it's time to return the favor." Sarah blinked, disbelief and hope warring inside her. "You saw the video?" "Yeah. You and your kids are getting your home back." Before she could speak, another wave of motorcycles arrived. 50 more riders, women among them, some holding signs. Neighbors peeked through blinds as the rumble shook the street. Frank raised a hand. "Nobody touches the house. Nobody threatens. We do this right." He walked up the driveway and knocked on the door. Inside, movement. Then the squatter woman appeared. Same smirk, same defiance. "What's this, a parade?" Frank's voice was low, steady. "You're living in someone else's home. Get your stuff and leave." She laughed. "Or what? You'll call the cops?" "They already said it's civil." Frank smiled, but it wasn't kind. "Lady, I am the civil kind. This is me being polite." 100 bikers stood silently behind him. Engines off, eyes locked. The air felt electric. The squatter faltered. "You can't intimidate me." Frank didn't move. "Nobody's intimidating you. But you're going to pack up and walk out. Peacefully." The woman hesitated, then slammed the door. Frank turned to Sarah. "We'll stay until this is fixed. Every night, someone's watching the house. You and your kids aren't sleeping in a car again." Sarah covered her mouth, tears spilling down. "Why? Why are you doing this?" "Because your dad saved me," Frank said. "And good men don't raise people who deserve to suffer." He turned back to his crew, set up camp. Tents went up on the sidewalk. Food trucks arrived. News crews followed. By sunset, the whole street was filled, a peaceful wall of chrome and leather guarding a mother's stolen home. Inside, the squatters peeked out through the blinds, realizing this wasn't just one woman anymore. It was hundreds, and for the first time, they looked afraid. The night swallowed the edges of the neighborhood, but the hum of engines rolled in like thunder over asphalt. Sarah blinked through her tears as the first headlights swept across her driveway, then another and another. Bikers, dozens of them, their vests gleaming under the streetlights, patches stitched with names and scars that had seen too many fights and too many years. At their head rode Hawk, a broad-shouldered man with silver threaded through his beard and a single black band around his arm. When he cut the engine, the street fell into silence except for the ticking of cooling metal and Sarah's unsteady breathing. She stepped forward, unsure if she should be afraid. But Hawk swung his leg over the bike and removed his helmet, his expression carved from something between sorrow and relief. "Sarah, right?" he said, his voice low but carrying. She nodded, clutching her phone like a lifeline. "You don't know me," he continued, "but I knew your father, Tom Myers." The name hit her like a blow. Her father had been gone for years, buried after a long battle with cancer. He'd been a mechanic, a good one, always smelling of oil and cigarettes. "You knew my dad?" Hawk's gaze softened. "Knew him? Owed him? Your old man pulled me out of a wreck once. Never took a dime, said I'd pay it forward someday." He looked at the house, the porch lights blazing, curtains drawn, silhouettes moving inside. "Looks like today's the day." Sarah opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She just nodded, her lip trembling. Hawk turned to the group behind him. "All right, boys," he said, voice booming. "Let's handle this like gentlemen first." They walked up the porch, 20 men in leather and steel, to knock on the door of the home Sarah once tucked her kids into every night. The woman who'd taken it opened a crack, her face lit by arrogance. "You people again?" The cops already said. Hawk lifted a hand, quiet but commanding. "Ma'am, I'm not a cop. I'm a friend. You've got 2 choices tonight. You can pack your bags and walk away, or you can wait for the law to catch up with the paperwork your lawyer forged. But either way, this lady gets her home back." The squatter scoffed. "You can't threaten me," she snapped. "I have a lease." "Forged," Hawk cut in. "And I've got a lawyer of my own who's already pulling your record. You've done this before, haven't you? Move into vacant homes, fake papers, rent them out until someone catches on." Her eyes flickered, just for a second, and that was all it took. Hawk turned to Sarah. "Get your kids. Tonight you sleep inside." The squatter's boyfriend stepped out, shirt half buttoned, thinking he could intimidate the bikers. The sight of Hawk's crew standing shoulder to shoulder erased that thought fast. The man stepped back without a word. Within an hour, Sarah was inside her home again. The bikers worked like an army, changing locks, cleaning, taking inventory of what was damaged. Her kids ran from room to room, squealing with joy, rediscovering the toys they'd been forced to leave behind. Hawk stayed quiet, leaning against a counter as Sarah made hot cocoa on a stove that hadn't been turned on in weeks. "I don't know how to thank you," she said softly. "Don't," he replied. "You don't owe me a thing. Your dad's the one who set this right. I'm just the hands." Tears welled again, but this time they weren't from fear. She looked around, her children curled on the couch, their faces lit by the soft glow of the TV. Safe, warm, home. But Hawk wasn't done. "I'm leaving a few of the boys to keep watch tonight. Squatter might try to come back, or someone else might think you're easy to push around. You're not. Not anymore." Sarah hesitated. "Why are you really doing this?" Hawk took a deep breath, eyes unfocused as he stared out the window. "Because your father saved me when I was nothing. I was drinking myself to death after a crash. He sat me down, fixed my bike, and told me I wasn't broken, just bent. When he died, I never got the chance to tell him I stayed clean. Because of him." He looked back at her. "You being out here, losing your home, felt like the universe was giving me one more shot to keep that promise." The words hit deep. Sarah reached across the counter and touched his gloved hand. "Then you kept it," she said simply. For the first time that night, Hawk smiled. The next morning, local news vans crowded the street. The video Sarah had posted was still spreading, millions of views, comments flooding in. But now there was an ending no one expected. Footage of bikers standing guard outside a modest house, and a mother holding her kids, safe again. The police came back too, this time with real authority. The squatter and her boyfriend were arrested on charges of fraud, trespassing, and theft. The officers who had shrugged Sarah off earlier avoided her eyes as they walked past. When the reporters asked who the bikers were, Hawk just said, "Friend of her father," and left it at that. Weeks passed. The lock stayed changed, the walls repainted, and the house filled again with laughter and the smell of pancakes. Hawk stopped by sometimes, never unannounced, always respectful. The kids adored him, called him Uncle Hawk. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, Sarah found a small envelope on her doorstep. Inside was a photograph. Her father, years younger, standing beside Hawk in front of the same house. On the back were 5 words in her father's handwriting. "You're never alone, kiddo." Sarah pressed the photo to her chest and looked out the window where Hawk's motorcycle was parked across the street. For the first time since losing everything, she felt anchored again, not just to a home, but to a legacy that refused to die. Hawk didn't need thanks, but Sarah found her own way to repay him. She started volunteering at the local shelter, helping families who'd lost homes to scams like hers. When the media called again, asking for an update, she said only one thing: kindness doesn't die with the person who gave it. It waits, sometimes for years, for the right moment to come back. And it had. That night, she tucked her children into bed and stood in the doorway, watching their peaceful faces. Her home was hers again. Her father's promise had lived on through strangers bound not by blood, but by honor. Outside, the rumble of motorcycles echoed once more down the street, fading into the distance. Sarah smiled through the window, whispering into the quiet, "Thank you, Dad." And somewhere beyond the dark horizon, a biker with silver in his beard smiled too, knowing that a promise made long ago had finally come full circle.